Hey guys, our devotion today comes from Genesis chapter 25. Today we are looking at the end part of this chapter, starting in verse 24, and we want to remember to be in prayer for Maureen Winstrom. So we have a very familiar story here. It is the story of the birth of Jacob and selling his birthright for a bowl of soup. I think one of the things we clearly see in this chapter is the sovereignty and the control and the power of God and his ability to choose anyone he wants to do his will, to perform his purposes. I couldn't help but think about the promises that God made to Abraham and how he carries those out. And a lot of times he makes choices different than I would because he is the King of Kings. And he doesn't need my opinion. He chooses who he wants to choose. And here we see him choose Jacob over Esau. Even though as I look at it, I think, man, wouldn't Esau be the reasonable choice? He's the firstborn. He's this manly guy, and he goes out hunting. And Jacob is not the firstborn, and he seems to be this sort of Weasley guy who's going to use kind of manipulation in order from Esau. And yet, God chooses Jacob. And he's worked this way. I mean, he's making these promises to Abraham already, and he's used, their barrenness to show his power through that. And now he's showing his power again. I'm not going to choose the most obvious choice. I'm going to choose this little Weasley deceptive guy, Jacob, and I'm going to carry out my promises that I've made through him. I think we do see a couple of important things, too, about Jacob and Esau in this chapter. I had to ask the question, do you think Esau knew about the promises that God made to Abraham? I think they 100% did. And we see something about Esau here where he sells his birthright. Even though Jacob was being a little bit, I think it's what Esau does really is even worse because he despises the birthright, the promises of God. He is willing to sell them just to feed his flesh. He has this hunger, and sure, maybe he was really hungry, but he says he's about ready to die. I mean, come on here. We see something about Esau, and maybe that's part of the reason why God rejected him. I don't know, but willing to sell his birthright for a bowl of soup. And Jacob, for his part, he seems to know the value of this birthright, and he's willing to do what he can to get it. However, in the end, I think what we really do truly see here is the sovereignty of God. That he doesn't just make promises that he's not able to keep. He is fully able to bring about his will in whatever way he wants to do. And I think the way he chooses to do it glorifies him and shows off his power and his ability. So it's just a passage today that reminds me God is in control and his promises will not fail. Thank God, because that promise of salvation came through Abraham, and he showed he could do it however he wanted to do. God bless you guys. If God spoke to you about this passage today, leave us a message on Facebook. Let's minister to